blood moon is a night steeped in legend and fear, a night when the moon turns crimson, bathing the earth in a foreboding glow. Many believe it to be a harbinger of doom, a time when the veil between worlds is at its thinnest, allowing the supernatural to cross over and wreak havoc. This is the story, the blood moon, a night of endless terror, a night when a small town is plunged into chaos as dark forces rise, and the residents must fight to survive until dawn. The calm before the storm, the town of Black Hollow was quiet as the evening of the blood moon approached. Nestled in the mountains, it was the kind of place where everyone knew each other, and life moved at a slow, predictable pace. The townsfolk went about their daily routines, unaware of the horrors that would soon be unleashed upon them. The blood moon had been the talk of the town for weeks. Some dismissed it as just another natural phenomenon, while others couldn't shake the feeling of unease that settled over them as the night drew closer. Superstitions ran deep in Black Hollow, and stories of strange occurrences during past blood moons had been passed down through generations. As the sun set, casting long shadows over the town, the residents gathered in their homes, locking their doors and drawing their curtains. They tried to go about their evenings as usual, but there was a palpable tension in the air, a sense that something was about to happen. And then, as the moon rose in the sky, its blood-red light bathed the town in an eerie glow. It was a sight both beautiful and terrifying, and it marked the beginning of a night that would haunt Black Hollow forever. The first signs of terror, the first sign that something was wrong, came shortly after the moon reached its zenith. In the old cemetery on the outskirts of town, the ground began to stir. Graves that had long been undisturbed shifted and cracked, as if something beneath the earth was trying to break free. In the heart of the town, strange noises echoed through the streets. Whispers carried on the wind, footsteps that seemed to come from nowhere, and the faint sound of laughter that sent chills down the spines of those who heard it. But it wasn't until the apparitions began to appear that the true horror of the blood moon was realized. Ghostly figures, pale and translucent, emerged from the shadows, drifting through walls and gliding down the streets. They were the spirits of the restless dead, long forgotten, but now awakened by the power of the blood moon. At first, the apparitions seemed harmless, merely observing the living with hollow eyes. But as the night wore on, their intentions became clear. They were not here to watch. They were here to torment, to feed on the fear and despair of the living. The possessions begin. As the ghostly apparitions roamed the town, a darker force began to take hold of the living. It started with subtle changes. People who were usually kind and gentle became irritable and aggressive, lashing out at those around them. But soon, the possessions became more pronounced, as malevolent spirits took control of their hosts, using them as vessels to carry out their twisted desires. Mothers turned on their children, friends became enemies, and neighbors who had lived in peace for years suddenly found themselves at each other's throats. The town descended into chaos, as those who had once been trusted members of the community became instruments of terror. In one particularly harrowing incident, a young boy named Tommy, no more than 8 years old, became the target of a possession. His parents watched in horror as their son's eyes rolled back into his head, his body convulsing as the spirit took hold. When he opened his eyes again, they were no longer the eyes of an innocent child. They were cold, empty, and filled with malice. Tommy's parents tried to restrain him, but he was no longer their son. The spirit controlling him was strong, far stronger than a child should be, and it took several grown men to subdue him. But even as they held him down, the spirit spoke through him, its voice a guttural snarl that chilled the blood of all who heard it. "You cannot stop us," it hissed. "This night belongs to us." Creatures of the night. As if the apparitions and possessions weren't enough, the blood moon also brought forth creatures that had no place in the world of the living. Beasts that had only been spoken of in whispers and old legends now prowled the streets of Black Hollow, their eyes glowing with an unnatural light. Wolves with fur as black as the night, their teeth bared in vicious snarls, stalked the outskirts of the town, their howls echoing through the night. Bats with wingspans wider than a man was tall swooped down from the sky, their screeches piercing the air as they hunted for prey. And in the darkest corners of the town, shadows moved of their own accord, taking on twisted, monstrous forms that defied explanation. The town's few remaining defenders tried to fight back, but their weapons were useless against the supernatural. Bullets passed through the ghosts without harm, and the creatures of the night seemed to shrug off any physical attack. It became clear that this was a battle they could not win by force. The struggle for survival. As the night dragged on, a small group of survivors gathered in the church at the center of town, hoping to find some refuge from the horrors outside. Among them were Sheriff Mark Willis, Father Gabriel, the town's priest, and a handful of townsfolk who had managed to avoid possession or worse. The church, with its thick stone walls and heavy wooden doors, offered some protection, but it was clear that it wouldn't hold forever. The spirits and creatures outside were relentless, and it was only a matter of time before they found a way in. Sheriff Willis, a man of action who had always believed in the power of the law and order, found himself at a loss. How could he protect his town from forces he couldn't even comprehend? He looked to Father Gabriel for guidance, but the priest was just as frightened as the rest of them. "We need to hold out until dawn," Father Gabriel said, his voice trembling. "The power of the blood moon will wane with the sunrise. We just need to survive the night." But dawn seemed impossibly far away, and with each passing minute, the terror outside grew more intense. The church doors rattled as something or someone pounded on them, and the walls seemed to close in as the spirits pressed against them, whispering promises of doom and despair. Confronting the terror. As the night wore on, the survivors realized that they couldn't just hide and hope for the best. They needed to take action, to confront the terror head-on if they had any chance of making it through the night. Father Gabriel remembered an old ritual passed down through his predecessors that was said to ward off evil spirits. It was a long shot, but it was the only plan they had. The group gathered what few supplies they could find: salt, candles, holy water, and began the ritual, their voices shaking as they recited the ancient incantations. But as they performed the ritual, the spirits and creatures outside grew more frenzied, as if sensing that their time was running out. The walls of the church shook, and the air grew thick with the scent of sulfur and decay. The survivors huddled together, their fear palpable, as they continued to chant, praying for deliverance. The final battle. Just when it seemed that all hope was lost, the first light of dawn appeared on the horizon. The blood moon began to fade, its crimson light replaced by the soft glow of the morning sun. As the sun's rays touched the town, the spirits began to dissipate, their forms flickering and fading into nothingness. The possessed townsfolk collapsed, the malevolent spirits abandoning their hosts as they were banished by the rising sun. The creatures of the night slunk back into the shadows, retreating to whatever dark corners they had come from. But the survivors knew that their ordeal was far from over. Black Hollow had been forever changed by the events of the night, and the scars left by the blood moon would never fully heal. They had survived, but at what cost? The town was in ruins, its people traumatized by the horrors they had witnessed. The blood moon is a rare and terrible event, a night when the boundaries between worlds blur and the supernatural is free to walk among us. The story of Black Hollow is a chilling reminder of the dangers that lurk in the shadows, waiting for their chance to strike. If you enjoyed this tale of terror, be sure to like, subscribe, and stay tuned to Nicole's Nightmare Narratives for more stories that will keep you up at night. And remember, when the blood moon rises, beware of what lies beneath its crimson light.